Good evening, Matthew.
Good evening, Justin.
We wanted to do this little short on today, which is May 27th, 2020. Just kind of a direct response to the murder that happened in Minnesota yesterday, of George Floyd. Just a guy living in Minnesota in reality, not doing much wrong. Where he was killed, this black man killed by a white cop, becoming a tale as old as time, if
Hmm.
we're going to be honest. Um, and we wanted to talk about it just for a second and kind of just put some thoughts out there. Um, I think first and foremost, the thing I wanted to bring up is the difference, but or like I saw a meme that said, "What offends you? Which Neil offends you more?" Right? Because you had this white. The reason George died is because the white
Repeat
cop
that
had his.
last thing real quick. The tweet that you saw or the meme that you saw. You like started stuttering right as you said that.
Okay, yeah, I can lean forward. It said, "Which kneel down offends you more?" Right.
Dang.
Because George died with this cop with his knee on the side of his neck, which Minnesota actually does train police officers to do that as like a non-violent way to like get a person down. But you're also supposed to like stop when they're incapacitated, right? Because it's an effective way to make someone pass out, which like I don't know, we can debate that another time.
Yeah.
But then to maintain your knee for over 3 minutes after that, when the person was crying out, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe," right? Which is
Hmm.
also obviously a calling card. Um, and I think that like that's why Cap did this. You know what I mean? That's why this exists, is because this isn't an anomaly anymore. It's something
Yeah.
that we're all very aware of. Go ahead. You can say some stuff. Then I've got a few more
Um,
things I want to say.
yeah. I mean, like the I watched the video like a couple of times earlier, and honestly, I had to take a step and just like I very lightly play piano. I'm not much of a piano player, but it like if I'm like stressed out or I'm like just kind of if something like works me up a lot, it's like a good calming thing that I do. I had to go play for a bit after I watched the the video. I watched a couple of them. I watched the riots that were happening, or I'm gonna like riots. It's not like police were fighting the people or people fighting the police. They were like vandalizing stuff, but I don't know. I guess it's what you classify as riot, I guess. But uh, and then I watched the video that was from a security camera that kind of shows like the build up to him to George Floyd being on the ground, and basically like the cop pulls him over. If you haven't seen the video, the cop pulls him over. One guy's standing on one side. There's two other people in the car. The two people in the car get out, and then they kind of pull George Floyd out, and then they handcuff him, and he's like sitting up against the like a wall of this building, and he's just you can tell he's like upset, and uh, like he walked over there like there was no issue. He's not like fighting him off, like elbowing him or anything like that. He's just walking over there. He sits down. They pick him up to like put him in the cop car after backup came, which I'm sure the backup is pretty standard. Like if you have any kind of call, backup standard. They walk him over, and then the video I was watching, it cut to like somebody's phone recording though after they walk kind of out of the way of the security camera, and it shows like the actual video of the cop like on George Floyd, and from that point, I hadn't seen any like resisting, not especially not violently, um, and uh, he's just sitting there. The guy's like telling him, "I can't breathe." George Floyd's saying, "I can't breathe" or anything, and the cop just sits there with his knee on his neck. And yeah, that's definitely like something that can be used probably really effectively, and probably is a good thing to have like people trained on. But as you said, 3 minutes past like him being unconscious, even to that point, I think is excessive because, like I said prior, he had not shown any like I'm not trying to resist arrest. They said they had trouble getting him in the car, which I believe. And then also one of the other cop that was there that was standing between the people like filming, he was like, "Don't do drugs, kids," and he might have just been making like a smart remark or something like that. But it could have also been implying that this guy was on drugs, which he could have been, and it could have made him like kind of like, you know, I believe in the first video of the security footage, you can see him like walking down the sidewalk to the cop car, and he kind of stumbles off the curb. And I don't know if he just kind of like did like the little kid fall, you know, like whenever you're trying to like pull your kid through the grocery store and they just like fall and like are dragging, or if he just like actually fell off the curb because, you know, maybe he's on drugs, or either one of those could have been on drugs. You know, you never know. But either way, like regardless, like he's done nothing at this point to like say like I'm combating you cops, you know, like I'm not throwing hands, we're not doing anything. The people in the car with him, they're like kind of kept off to the side. They're not doing anything, you know, like they're saying stuff, but I mean they're not like trying to run off or like standing up to the cops or anything like that. They're just kind of okay, but like I don't think this is right, but let's get over here, you know, or that's what it seems like. In the first security footage video, I didn't have any audio because obviously it's a security camera, but yeah, I mean it kind of blew my mind that these people are standing over here like, hey dude, like get off of him, like he's obviously not awake anymore, and the cop just still sits there. And even like I would imagine that the training that's put in to putting your knee on somebody's neck is because that's a really hard thing to get up from. And the difference between like, I'm sure like standard training on that, and I don't know, somebody could prove me wrong. I hope that somebody does. But I would assume that it's not to the point of like actually incapacitating the person to like unconsciousness. I would assume it's just immobilizing.
Yeah. I think that I mean that's probably true, right? Like I mean, that seems it seems like it's not conducive to health to have someone pass out, right?
Yeah.
And if your job is to serve and protect, I don't know if you're serving and protecting that individual, you know, that it's either who's not a threat to society. So at that point, who are you serving and protecting, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but there's okay, so I want to say like one quote that I like a lot, and then bring up another point is that it's the man who says he is in the light and hates his brother is in the darkness still. And I think that's really good. I
Mm-hmm.
like that a lot. Just like this, it's like you can act like you're woke, you can act like you are better than people, you can act like whatever you want to, you know. But the other thing is that like a ton of posts on social media, right? I'm seeing all these posts on social media, and that's great. I'm all for that, you know. I personally don't post much on social media besides like fantasy football stuff, you know what I mean? But I'm
Yeah.
liking or retweeting stuff, you know, people are saying stuff better than I could anyway. And I have this avenue, right? I don't have to hit that one
Yeah.
necessarily. But to me, it matters a lot more to have to at that point you have to be willing to enter into a dialogue, right? Like I work at a place where almost every single person here votes Republican, which not saying whatever, you know, I'm just saying like almost every single person is affluent and white, you know, and so there's things that like in these conversations, the values of most people at my church have been open to me, and I'm a very like personable person. I've had conversations. I know I'm not training with a broad brush here. I know how my people think,
Mm-hmm.
right? Mainly because I'm paid to, right? I'm paid to minister.
Yeah.
Um, but like that's something that I value. I think I'm good at is getting you to express to me how you feel about it because I can present myself as a safe place. But there's a calling, I think, and a obligation, I would say, for people who to enter into a dialogue of like, at the very least, I think dialogue is the least we can do of like, okay, so this happened. Um, do you understand? Like, can we talk about Black Lives Matter again and why this is a saying, right? Can we talk about the difference between this? Why is this met with violence and a bunch of white people with American flags and ARs was not met with violence, right? Like, what is that
Yeah.
difference? Why was tear gas used in this instance, but not in other instances, right? Um, and I'm not saying I don't think race is the only playing card always and forever, right? I'm not going to say that. I don't think that's necessarily true. But I also don't think that race is absent from this issue.
Yes.
You know, I think it is a major calling card for this. And so like I want to encourage people that like social media, there's value in that for sure. But that can often, especially if you're on Twitter, man, everybody on Twitter thinks that was wrong.
Yeah.
Right? It's a liberal platform. That's all there is to it. Posting on Twitter is no better than you and your friends sitting around a coffee table who all agree talking about whatever. There's no difference.
Yeah.
What's valuable is going and finding the people that you think are going to have a hard time with this, or the people that are trying to find a way to defend it, and not try to change their mind, but enter into a dialogue of like what we're trying to do here, right?
Yeah.
The point of this podcast is for you and I to discuss ideas and points of views from different different worldviews, right?
Yeah.
And we have great dialogue because of that, and we've become better people because of it.
Yeah.
Um, and I think the first step is, just because someone defends this a little bit, recognize that as tribalism, not immediately as racism, right? I think the person that you're talking to is probably not a racist. They just feel obliged to defend it in some way because they've said Blue Lives Matter for years now.
Yeah.
And I think it's false. Don't get me wrong, they're wrong. Okay, I think that's a wrong way to think about it. Just like I'm a Christian, and you're not going to see me defend the Crusades, right? I'm not gonna be like, well, we kind of had to, right? No, it's wrong. It's bad. It's bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm very sorry that happened, right? Right.
Yeah.
I've got a buddy who's a Penn State fan, and he doesn't defend Wesky, right? The coach that touched kids, right? I mean, it's like he doesn't defend it. He's like, yeah, that's a blemish. I'm sorry that happened. My university is bigger than that. That we've done these other things, right? And that's great and that's phenomenal, and I understand that. Similarly, I think it's okay to say, yeah, Blue Lives Matter. That's been my way of thinking this whole time, but this is messed up. This is wrong, and something has to change. You know.
Yeah.
And getting to that point in a dialogue can be a goal, right? To acknowledge fault. That's a healthy goal for dialogue. A healthy goal for dialogue is not to say I'm going to change your mind. You need to side with me. You need to get an I can't breathe shirt, right? Like that.
Yeah.
That's probably not going to happen anyway. And you're trying to switch a whole worldview, right?
Yeah.
But to engage and go there with him, like, okay, let's talk about why you think Blue Lives Matter. You're right. Cops' lives do matter. I'm not gonna say they don't. That's why that's not what BLM was ever saying, is that they didn't. It's, it's all lives matter, including Black lives, right?
Exactly.
And so I just think that I want to encourage our listeners. The whole point of this podcast filters into this discussion.
Yeah.
Is you have to be willing to get your hands a little dirty and mentally prepare yourself ahead of time to engage and be a place of where you can listen. You can earnestly listen to what someone is saying, but you can also earnestly ask pressing questions without bombarding them.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But the problem that it seems like a lot of people have with the Blue Lives, Black Lives Matter stuff is that in saying that, like, by saying Blue Lives Matter, it seems because it was like a retaliatory like thing that came up out of Black Lives Matter, like it's like, oh, you think Black Lives Matter, well, Blue Lives Matter, and it's like almost like Blue Lives Matter more than Black Lives, so and so the problem is that when people hear, and I think I used to be in this camp, at least to some degree for a little bit, that whenever I heard Black Lives Matter, I was like, well, yeah, but why don't the other like ethnicities, like why don't the other races matter? And then I heard something. I have no idea who said this, and I wish I did. I should have looked it up, but I heard this a while back. But Black Lives Matter is like, or saying all lives matter is like you're in a neighborhood and a house is burning down, and so we send the fire truck and they go throw water on all of the houses instead of just focusing on the one that has fire on it. Like we could put this fire out really efficiently, but instead we're going to make sure that none of these other houses catch on fire either. It's like that's not really how it works, and it's just making sure that we are lifting up everybody to the same level playing field to start out with.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you ever want to say about that?
No, go for it.
Oh no, I was just gonna say we don't have a ton to say. Like, obviously, this is pretty recent, and everything has been said. Like, I encourage you to listen to what the mayor said. Phenomenal video. Where he says, like, being black shouldn't be a death sentence.
Yeah.
And that's a heck of a quote to come from a position of power in that situation where it's, in a way, your employees, right? The same,
Yeah.
or at least your coworkers, the same people that pay you, pay them. Um, and for you to speak out in that way, is very powerful. And that's good. And I think that's a step in the right direction. But man, I'm just, it's sad how far we still have to go.
Yeah, I actually so I watched all the videos. Like I said, I watched the video where the cop is on him. I watched the video leading up to that point, and then I watched like the video of people like actually like rioting and like protesting and stuff like that. And like the they're all like outside of the police station, like just holding signs up, yelling. Some of them are kind of banging on the glass, but I didn't like nobody's throwing bricks through the windows or anything like that. Like it's
That did that. They were definitely throwing stuff at cop cars. Yeah.
yeah, I knew the cop cars, but at the actual police station,
Oh yeah.
and
I saw that.
when
For
they're
sure. Oh, yeah.
protesting, and then
Yeah.
you just see like cops coming out with, and like you see one of the guys in the front, he like turns back and he's like, they're about to grenade us. Like, could you like just imagine that and I don't even know what kind of analogy I'm about to put out there. But just imagine that you're sitting there and like your friend is beside you, and then somebody shoots your friend just out of the blue, and then you are like, "Hey man, you shouldn't do that." And then some like third party comes out and's like, "Hey, you shouldn't say that he shouldn't do that, or we're gonna tear gas you. We're gonna grenade you."
Yeah.
Like it just blows my mind. And so like further down that rabbit hole, I was watching. I looked up. I was like, white person resisting arrest, which I don't know if you've ever Googled black person resisting arrest versus white person resisting arrest, like two different Google searches of each one. Black person resisting arrest is like Black Lives Matter, like all this stuff, like it's like list stuff. White people protesting or white people resisting arrest. The first Google search that pops up is what are the laws against resisting arrest? And then like a couple of things down is like a couple of news articles that regard this thing. So I went and watched a couple of videos. There's a video where a guy's outside of a little shopping center and he's got a machete, and there's two or three cops there, and they tase him. He drops the machete. He keeps walking past them. Like, they tase him, and he's still standing, which is pretty impressive. But he keeps walking, and they're just like, "Sorry, stop, stop, stop." And then we have 14-year-old black kid that's like walking down the sidewalk, literally doesn't have a machete, doesn't have anything, and we're gonna shoot him in the back. Like, or the other one that I saw was a guy streaking, and they said in the video that he might have murdered somebody, or he was like a suspect for murder. Which, regardless of that, like whether that's true or not, he's streaking. The cops go to like get him. He runs from the cops. He even runs over to a person in a parking lot and puts his hands on that person. And then the cops are just kind of like running around like, "Stop, I'm gonna hurt you." Like it just blows my mind. It blows my mind. Like this in that video, like who cares that he's streaking? Who cares, like, because you don't have any context with the video. So in the context of that video, who cares if he murdered somebody? He's literally running from the cops, and he puts his hands on an innocent bystander. Like he like grabs him by like, I don't know if it was like the collar or if he grabs him by the throat or what. But I mean, like, you just think if anybody in this video that we're talking about George Floyd would have done anything remotely to that, you would imagine that guns would have been drawn immediately.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's well said. I mean, I don't have anything to add. We're kind of just doing this kind of a quick thing, but we just
Yeah.
wanted to have a response. Let y'all know that we speak out against that.
Yes.
And we're active. I think being active in your community, finding ways to whatever that looks like, but there's many ways to soften the blow of what communal racism, be the reason someone doesn't believe in racism, be the reason someone thinks, that not all white people are that way, or not all black people are that way, or not all Hispanics or whatever, um, be a source of acceptance, be a source of life, be a source of, speaking a truth,
Mm-hmm.
that needs to be said, even when it's when it's difficult to be spoken. And just, I think living intentionally in that
Yeah.
way is overwhelmingly important. And I think that's just reaffirmed today.
Yes. I think that's really well said.
Thanks, Matthew. All right. Well, you good?
Yeah.
All right, my man. Well, everybody, thank you for listening. Feel free to comment and tell us all the stuff that we said incorrectly.
Yeah.
But no, we love everybody. We love doing this together. And we love George Floyd.
Yeah. And just watch those videos for yourself. Obviously, I'm not going to do it a whole lot of justice, but just watch those videos for yourself. And yeah, like Justin said, just make sure that you're being a part of your community and doing everything you can to combat things like this locally, not just over Twitter.
Sure.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.